Okay, we are live now. Hello. Hi, Rick.
Good afternoon, Sarah.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good, good. So good to be back again. So we are 2 minutes early, so we can chat a little bit before everybody come.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I got few people interested to come on today. We'll see.
yeah. But sometime if they cannot get on live, they will watch a replay. Yeah, we have one viewer joining us. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to our live um, history chat with author Rick Road. So we are now live, and we are so glad that you joining us. And many other people may watch it later at the replay, but um, for the viewer that join us live, you can ask question. Okay, so let me pull up your intro. Okay, okay, we are live now, and before we go on with our conversation today, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. So our speaker today is a 10-time nonfiction book author and an authority on American history. He spent most of his adult life living aboard boats and has traveled far and wide in the Americas. Let's welcome Rick Rhodes. Hi, Rick. Welcome.
Thank you.
So now, um, it's mid March and college basketball's March Madness is up on us. So today you are going to talk about one great basketball coach and an even greater teacher of young men, John Wooden. I can't wait to hear his story. So let tell us, Rick, what is about John Wooden that you are so impressed with him?
Well, yes, I can't wait to tell you about him. I didn't like him when I was in college because I was beating all the other teams. But when I studied his life later on, I go, wow, he's a pretty classy guy. Uh, he considered himself foremost a teacher, and he believed that teaching was the most important job in the world. And sometimes teachers don't know if they've done a good job till 20 years down the road. And he was also a very strong Christian and believed that any religious faith besides Christianity, Judaism, Muslim, and Buddhist could be good. They all gave people a moral compass and they're a force for good. So he was a Christian, but he didn't say Christianity was the best, and he lived it in his life. And I'll use examples of that. He knew in many ways that God didn't make us all equal. As basketball players that play college or have a lot of talent, more talent than 99.9% of us, and some people are very smart. And he said the only thing we can all do is give it our best, whatever we're good at. Even if we're good at hardly nothing, give whatever you have your best. One of his strong things, he believed in friendships, faith, friendships, and family, and they were all some of the life treasures, and I'll talk about them later on. His early boyhood, he grew up in Indiana, and his father, Joshua, was far from a financial success. He was rather had two jobs, a farmer and a postman, and he had a hard time making ends meet. But he imbued in his four sons right from wrong, and he told them that never try to be better than somebody else, but also try to be the best you can personally be. In one sense, Joshua Wooden, John's father, was a real success because all four of his sons became teachers, and John believed that was one of the most important professions in the world. Um, and both parents instilled on John Wooden to help others was important, and in doing so, we ourselves receive happiness, freedom, and peace of mind. And Joshua Wooten gave his 4 sons one creed: never lie, never cheat, never steal, don't whine, don't complain, and don't make excuses. I guess that's 6 things. His father was a big reader, especially the Bible. And he said, "This is interesting. You got to think about this. You never learn anything unless you learn from somebody else, including the Bible." And I go, "Yeah, you don't learn something. Everything we learn is, secondhand." And that's very true. And both parents instilled that time was very precious and make every day count. Make every day your masterpiece. And his father never taught him a thing about basketball, but he told him if you win and if you have a losing score, you haven't lost. If you didn't give your best, and if you have a winning score, you haven't. It's nothing to really brag about, but just give everything your best. In elementary school, he played in Indiana on a dirt court with a disciplinarian principal who was also the basketball coach in elementary school, who believed in corporal punishment, and all the kids there got corporal punishment at that time. And they played basketball on a dirt court with potholes, and they had to blow up the ball after a while because they blew it up with their mouth, and then after it got deflated and also got out around and picked up a lot of dirt and get heavier. Now, if you can imagine playing basketball when I was, playing a little bit, I can't fathom that. But John played with that, and he said, that's why I become a great dribbler when he played college ball, because he learned how to play with a lopsided ball in a dirt court. And one time in elementary school, he was a star, as you would suspect. He forgot his jersey. Well, he didn't forget his jerseys. There was a traffic accident, and he thought the game was going to be canceled. But anyway, the traffic mishap was cleared up, and the game was not canceled. And John didn't have his jersey. So the coach was ready to play the game and found out John didn't have it. John said, "I'll run back home," which wasn't that far away, to get my jersey. Well, he ran back, and he thought the coach would let him use another player's jersey or play without a jersey or a shirt or a top. And John ran back in time for the game, and the coach didn't let him play. And the team was down by 2 points. And John said, "If you put me in and win, I'm good." And the coach wouldn't do it, and they lost by 2 points. And John learned a very important lesson, which the coach was trying to instill on him: be prepared, and all the time be prepared. Have your jersey ready, So John learned a lesson, and his father was like that too. In high school, he was a starter, had his first taste of college or high school tournament, high school tournaments, and he met his future wife, Nell Riley. And they were together for the rest of their life for the next 60 years. And that's the only woman he ever knew. In Purdue, he went to college at Purdue, and he wanted to be an engineer. Purdue's a great engineering school. But in engineering, he had to go to summer camp in the summertime. And he couldn't do that because he had to work, so he switched to an English major. I also played for a great coach at Purdue, a guy named Ward Lambert. And Ward Lambert really stressed not shooting the ball, but fundamentals like rebounding and blocking shots and playing really strong defense. And Lambert knew that building a person up, the student up, was also tantamount to making a good basketball team. And being far from the tallest person, if anybody's ever seen him on the team, even at Purdue, in the 1920s, he made up for it by working especially hard and being very physical. And he would bounce off the floor and run for loose balls. And they used to call him the Indiana Rubber Man because he bounced off everything, trying to do that when he played college football. And he's one of the best college basketball players in the country. And he never had a technical foul. If you don't know what a technical foul is, it's like a flagrant foul. You might say that you might tell the referee something he shouldn't say. And he only had one in his whole career when he was a coach, saying, "Goodness gracious sakes alive." Now, was that really bad? But it was. He was called the one technical foul he ever had. And this coach Lambert at Purdue was invited to play in a postseason tournament at Madison Square Garden. And Coach Ward Lambert at Purdue would not go. There's too much glitz and things that are not good for the young men, and I won't go. And all the alumni and everybody else at Purdue saying, "What, are you crazy? You're not going to a postseason tournament?" And Lambert stuck by his lonely guns. And John Wooden respected that and learned that. And Lambert was probably right, and that team did not go. In his senior year, early 1930s, he was recognized as the nation's best basketball player. In the last 2 years, he was the team captain, and he won the NCAA, which is all the college, which is starting right this week and going on with a 17-1 record. Now they play about over 30 games, but then they played 18 games. And he finished when he graduated from Purdue. He finished in the top 0.5% academically in English. After he graduated from Purdue, he married his high school sweetheart, Nell Riley, in a small Indianapolis ceremony. Then he lost everything he owned, and the bank collapsed. And the depression had only $2 to start off his marriage. Money, and then he was first got a coaching job in Northern Kentucky, Dayton, Kentucky, and he made mistakes, and he'll admit it. He said, I was complaining and moaning about the players in front of other people, and that got back to the players, and that wasn't a good idea. And he learned from that. He stopped doing that. Then he got another coaching job at South Bend Central, and also after first job was in Northern Kentucky. This job was in Northern Indiana, and they shared a YMCA gym with a wrestling mat, gym equipment, a boxing ring, and he still had a lot to learn, and he had a strict policy of no smoking during the season. One of the star players was caught smoking, and John Wooden said, "You're gone, you're out of here." And the boy never became anything. He had all this potential to play college and get a degree, and he had menial jobs the rest of his life. And John Wooden kind of felt bad about that. I think he should have felt bad about that. He was inflexible about rules, and I think he learned and never did that type of thing again. He felt bad for this young man. And he also learned at South Bend Central that the popularity was not an essential for leadership. Boy, I think that's true. I really do. And then World War II started, and he went and served in the Navy for 3 years and came out as a Navy lieutenant or an 03. And then he went to Indiana State and also back to his Midwest, back to Indiana to coach at Indiana State. I think it was called Teachers College back then, right after the war. And first year, his team qualified for the small college tournament. I think it was held in Kansas City. And he had one black player on the team. He wasn't even a starter. I know what his name was. His name was Clarence Walker, and he was from Chicago. And the tournament people in Kansas City said, that guy can't go. You leave your black guy home. This was right after World War II. And John Wooden, and he probably could have played without that player, said, no, we're not. We're staying here. We're not going. A year later, they also were back and invited him again. And they said, well, your guy, Clarence Williams, your black guy, can come and play in a Kansas City tournament. But he has to, he can't be seen with the team in public functions. And John Wooden thought that was even worse. He said, no, we're not going. We're not going. You can have your darn tournament. I think what he said. And then the color barrier was broke. And also, other schools are beginning to notice this coach at Indiana State. And he wanted to go to Purdue. He wanted to stay in the Midwest. And he was about basketball. He was a disciplinarian, but he never strived to hold anger at bay. He did not want to punish his players, embarrass or ridicule them, but he wanted to improve and correct them. In the huddle, he was intense, but never uncontrollable. And he felt the very short times. If you watch a basketball game, you're not in the huddle very long. They call a timeout. And his idea was that being emotional was time poorly spent. Likewise, he expected his players to control their emotions after a win. He said, let the fans make fools of themselves and the alumni, and they often, if you've ever been to a college event, they often do. He said, when you walk outside of a game, I don't want the people out there to know whether you won or lost because your emotions are held in check. He believed that was a sign of maturity, and I think he was really correct. And he believed in doing little things well on and off the court, being well groomed and neatly dressed. And today, that's almost out the window. He said, put the dirty towels in a towel basket. Don't throw them on the floor. I think some players just threw them on the floor and let the towel guy pick them up afterward. And he tried to build character in his players. And a player with character was more giving and sharing with others on and off the court. He praised non-starters. They have 5 people starting a basketball game more than starters. And he praised like besides shooting attributes like blocking and rebounding and dribbling and defense, especially defense. He had many college offers. Well, he didn't have many. He was at Indiana State and he had a few offers. And he wanted to get to the Big Ten, and Purdue wanted him, or he was. They were very sloppy in handling the existing coach there at Purdue. And in the meantime, the University of Minnesota also wanted him, and they sent him an offer, but he kind of got slowed up in a snowstorm. In the meantime, a head coaching job at University of California, Los Angeles came due, and that was 1948. And he got the offer from Minnesota at the same time, a day after he said a verbal agreement he would go to UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. And he wouldn't go back. He said, well, I made a commitment to UCLA and I'll go there. And he signed a 3-year, $6,000 contract. And when he arrived, he barely had enough money to pay for a modest down payment on a modest home, and needed a second job in the summer as a dispatcher for a dairy processor. This is in 1948 when he went to UCLA. And him and the assistant coach at UCLA started the day by mopping up the gym. It was really a mess, and it smelled horribly. But the first 2 years, 1 and 2 years, he produced some scrappy teams and was back to having his winning seasons again that he had so often when he was in college and high school and before. And after his second year at UCLA, Purdue tendered him a contract, and he wanted to get out of going to UCLA, continuing his contract. And UCLA reminded him that you signed a 3-year contract, you really shouldn't get out of it. And he didn't. He went and said, well, we'll get out of it. I want to go back to the Midwest. We'll go back. Nell and I, his wife, will go back to the Midwest next year after his third year when his contract was up. Well, Purdue nor Minnesota offered him the contract after the third year. And besides that, he and his wife, Nell, were beginning to like Southern California. And they stayed there. The rest is history, if you know anything about college basketball. In 1964, after 25 years as a head coach, UCLA began a real historic run. They won 10 national championships in 12 years, including 4 no-loss seasons and an 88-game winning streak. Now, they averaged, I don't know how many games they played back then, probably close to a little over 20 maybe. Those were the last 12 years of his coaching life. And he was named a Wizard of Westwood, Westwood being a section of where UCLA is in Los Angeles. And he hated that moniker because there was nothing wizard about it. It was just hard work. He didn't like it at all. And during his 27 years at UCLA, he never asked for a raise and never made more than $35,000 a year. This was in the 70s and 80s, I think, even the early 80s. And before leaving the UCLA, he was still coaching basketball there. The owner of the LA Lakers professional basketball team, Jack Ken Cook, who also owned my Redskins, made him an exorbitant offer to coach in the pros. And John Wooden, who wasn't making all that much money, never turned it down. So how did John Wooden attain such a high level of success in his chosen profession? I'm going to go into a few things here. Besides his own father, his 2 favorite people were Abraham Lincoln and Mother Teresa. That tells you something about the person. He took his mantra from his coach at Purdue: the team that makes the most mistake will probably win, because if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything. Think about that for a minute. That makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
It does. And he considered himself more of a practice coach, not a game strategy coach, but he was aware of burnout and over practicing, so he didn't do that. He believed there were only 2 things detrimental to a player: not reacting, and 2, overreacting. Now, in like what he wanted one of his players to feel that winning was no great accomplishment, nor was losing anything to be ashamed of. And he listened to his players. He believed the surest way to show partiality was to treat all his players the same. They were all not the same, and some of them deserved different treatment than others. So he didn't do that. He told his players in college, their education came first. Basketball came second because that was their paying their way through college. And he also advised them to get involved in other activities around college, but be careful. Don't go overboard with that. And he used to use ancient history to make points. He told players, in history, all civilizations have crumbled from within, unless in the United States. And the only thing that can possibly destroy this team is ourselves. Um, when his team won, as they often did, he expected his players not to dance around and act like fools. And when they lost, he wanted no belly aching. Dignity and perspective mattered above all else. And he exhorted his fans at UCLA to be for their team, not against the opponent. He never used profanity and strongly believed in prayer. And he believed all prayers were answered. Uh, if a fan asks you for an autograph and you're a player, they are paying you an honor. Please sign an autograph and show them respect. Um, John Wooden believed that joy came in life from seeing success in others, especially as the teacher he was. After her fight against cancer in 1985, his wife of 50 years, a sweetheart for 60 years, Nell Wooten, died of cancer. And she was the only girl he's ever with. And when Nell departed, he had a really rough time. He became a near recluse. But he lived for another 25 years. So he was almost 100. On commemorating her passing on the 21st of each month, he was heartbroken. He'd write a letter and then put it in a stack and a yellow ribbon on her pillow. You know, sweet, but you know, he was very depressed and loved her very much even after she was gone. And with help of many who loved him, his children, grandchildren, friends, and ex-basketball players he coached, he finally got over his depression. And yet he had a little fear of death when Nell died, and after she passed away, he had no fear of death, the dying, but he lived another 25 years. And, many of his players acknowledged John Wooden didn't just teach them basketball; they taught them life. He had perhaps hundreds of profound sayings. I got a little bit of time. I'm going to read about 5 of them. I think they're very good. And then we'll wrap it up. I think the teaching profession contributes more to the future of society than any other single profession. If you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything. I'm positive that the doer makes mistakes. Success is never final. Failure is never fatal. It's courage that counts. Adversity is the state in which man most easily becomes acquainted with himself, being especially free of admirers. Talent is God given, be humble. Fame is man given, be grateful. Conceit is self given, be careful. A man makes mistakes, but isn't a failure until he starts blaming someone else for them. And he's a great guy. Like I said, I didn't really care for him when I was in college, but I have to respect him. He was a great man. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them. Thank you, Sarah.
Sure. Yes. Everybody, if you have any question, please post it. And I have a few questions for you, Rick. My first question is tell us about John Wooden's early life in the rural Indiana.
Well, it was hard scrabble. His father had to take on 2 jobs as farmer and a postman, and it was not easy. And I told you about playing basketball with a dirty, lopsided ball. So his upbringing was not soft. It was hard, you know, in the 1910s and 20s in Indiana, rural Indiana.
Okay. So John Wooden put a high priority on friendship. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, friendships, faith, and family. And he believed in all of them. And actually, and I didn't realize how much he put priority on friendships, but he really did. I knew he was a man of great faith. And those friendships probably bailed him out when he lost Nell 25 years before he himself was taken. So, yes, he believed highly in friendships.
Awesome. So my next question is that John Wooden was a strong Christian. Did he ever pray for the successful outcome of a basketball game?
The answer is unequivocally no. I mean, I've been to sporting events, and I'm praying that my team wins. He said I believe him. He said he didn't do that, didn't think it was right, and he said sometimes when you pray, very often when you pray, the answer is no.
Okay. All right. My last question for you. John Wooden saw himself foremost as a teacher. tell us a little more about that.
Well, he did more than a coach. Well, coach is a teacher, the type of teacher. He said the teaching profession contributes more to society than any other single profession. And I think he's right. He said that. So it's very important, and he believed in it. Yes.
Awesome. All right, that's all the question I have for you. And I don't see any question from our audience. So, well, every
Picture of him.
yeah, everybody, if you have any question, please post it in the chat, and we can ask Rick to answer for you. Or any comments. It doesn't have to be question. Comment. Oh, we have picture. I want to show you the picture of John Wooden. So let me show you the picture. This is the picture of the famous John Wooden. He looked very
Courtesy of Steve
frail.
Damas.
Yeah, he looked quite frail. All right. Okay, so again, the talk today is about John Wooden. Let me put this. The basketball coach John Wooden. And I'm Sarah M. I'm an author of the book How I Survived the Killing Fields. And Rick Rhodes, he's a 10-time book author. And the 10 book that he wrote is called How They Made America Great. So let me see if I can find the banner for his book. It's coming. Here is his book banner. They Made America Great. And that's Rick Rhodes' contact information right there. His website is scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. And we hope you enjoy the storytelling today about one of the wonderful person in the history. And he's a very good teacher and committed to his game. And I hope that you will return the next event. The next meeting will be
3 weeks.
April 5th.
I got a break here. Yeah. First Wednesday in April. 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
And either thinking of one or two things: either the Ritchie Boys or Vivian Thomas, a black surgeon. They'll both be in April. I don't know which one is coming first. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's whatever you choose. It's always have something important for us to learn. So I'm so glad to learn about the great coach John Wooden. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank you, Sarah.
And with that, everybody, thank you so much for watching, for joining us. If you watch on a replay, feel free to post your comments so that you can give an encouragement to Rick that if we have enough people enjoy this, he will keep doing. But if nobody posts anything, that means nobody like it. So maybe we'll reconsider whether we continue or not. So I appreciate you if you like it and say something. All right. Well, thank you so much, Rick. And we are wrapping up, and we'll say goodbye to our viewer. Goodbye, everyone. And please tell your friend about this if you are a history person, if you enjoy the good personality of the character that we share with you one by one. Please invite some friends to join you next time. So the first and third Wednesday at 4 o'clock. All right, goodbye now. And thank you, Rick, again, one more time. Bye.
Thank you.